This is a 2018 Subaru Crosstrek, and I'm going to do a 60,000 mile servicing on it. I'm going to compare what it costs to have the dealership do this job versus me doing it myself. Alright, one of the first things on the list is to look at the air filter and to replace it. So let's pull this out and see what it looks like. I'm going to take these two clamps, remove them. Let's pop it out, lift it up. And this side don't look too bad, but you can see there is some debris in here. So it has been eating. It's been eating some. So we're going to throw this away and put a brand new one in. With the compressor running, I'm going to use my compressed air gun and blow out any air, any dirt that's in here. You can see that stuff does get trapped in here. Look at all that. Look at all that coming out of the air cleaner. And like that, the new air filter's in. Snap those two tabs, make sure it's seated, and that's one thing done. Now we're going to replace the cabin air filter. Drop the glove box, like so. You're going to push both sides in. Drop it down. And there's a little lever on the side. It's like a little hydraulic arm piston thing. You're going to want to pull that out, and you can drop the whole glove box down. And it just hooks onto these tabs. But that gives you full access to here for where your cabin air filter is going to be. Now, if you have big fat fingers like me, I would recommend getting a small screwdriver. It'll make your life easier. But what you got to do is you take your finger. There's a tab on the side. Push that out. You'll feel it pop out. Same thing on this one. You feel it pop out. You can hear it. And then here, you have these little tabs with your fingers that you can push. If you can't get your fingers in there, take your flathead and use your thumb and pry it. But that's one, that's two. Now you got this cute little door that pops open or falls out. And we're gonna pull the cabin air filter out. So you can see the difference between the new one and the old one. Both sides. This filter needs to be changed. All right. So you're going to look to see what the air direction flow is, and you'll see air flow up, and that's what you want, because air is going to be pushing up here. Just slide that in. Hook our door back up. Snap your tabs in on both sides, and you're good to go. Now I'm going to put the glove box back in. So I'm going to hook the little hinges on the plastic part along the side here. I'm lifting this up slightly. I'm going to take the little arm. There's a little plastic arm here. I'm going to push that on so that holds the whole glove box in. Now I'm simply going to push it up. You're going to want to test the glove box to make sure it opens and closes properly. That's it. That's the cabin air filter change. So next we're going to replace the engine oil and the engine oil filter. A nice thing that Subaru does is they put the engine oil filter right here. So it's very easy to get to. I think that's nice. Ideally, these engine oil filters are only supposed to be on hand tight. But this thing is on so tight, I'm going to have to use a tool to take this off. I don't know why people put these on so tight. You don't need to. I think it's just inexperience. So, in any case, we're going to have to use this oil filter wrench tool. I can put a link in the description for this, but this tool you're going to need to put on for these small filters. And it's going to be taken off with this wrench. So it will damage the filter working on this thing, but you're going to need it to take the oil filter off. And you can see how it pulls it, it grips it, and it spins the oil filter off. So you're going to need it when people put these filters on so crazy tight. Alright, oil filter's out, and look at that, it's like self-draining. So that's pretty nice, that's handy. No mess here, I like that. With this off, what I'm going to do is get a oil rag. I'm going to clean up inside here before I put the new filter on. Now that you have a clean surface, next thing I'm going to do is I am going to lubricate the oil filter. And what I'm doing is I am lubricating really just the seal right here. Prevents the seal from drying out, and then I always throw a little on the threads. So with that on, now we can thread this new oil filter on. And notice I am turning it by hand. I am going tight, but that is all you need to do. Just hand tight. Let the seal do the work for you. So we're underneath the car. We got the car jacked up. We have this plastic skid plate. If you take your hand all the way back, there is a hole here. In here, you will see a drain plug for the oil pan. And right up there, you see you have your drain plug. So that is a 14mm drain plug. We're gonna loosen that up with our ratchet, and we're gonna drain the oil. So this drain plug is on way too tight. I do not know why people are putting these drain plugs on so tight. Oh my gosh. So, when you put these drain plugs on, they're just supposed to be snug. You're not supposed to use an impact on these things. And so now I got to go get my impact gun and take this off. So I got my impact gun. Let's take this off. Alright, now we are draining the oil out of here. Alright, while the oil is draining, what you're going to do is you're going to take your rag and clean up the drain plug as well as the copper washer to make sure there is no debris, no grit or anything. And then you're going to take your rag right up to the drain hole and you're going to clean this up, make sure there's no debris or anything like that. It's okay if there's oil there, we just don't want any rocks or debris. Now I'm going to take my drain plug, I'm going to tighten this up, and I'm tightening this by hand. Do not use an impact when tightening these. I don't know what these people are thinking. You're gonna do more damage than good. Trust me. Now I'm on there. This is snug. I'm snug right now, and I am gonna go a quarter turn, maybe, and probably just an eighth of a turn. Yeah, an eighth of a turn. That's all you need to do. That is plenty snug. All right, and that's gonna help out the next guy that takes this off, because if you're using impacts on these, shame on you. Now that we drain the oil and replace the oil filter, let's refill the oil system. The owner manual says it takes 5 quarts of oil, and that's what this jug is. However, I'm going to go to about 4.5 quarts and then run this thing and then see where we're at and then add oil as needed. And I have about half a quart left in this thing, maybe a little less. So I put that to the side. I'm going to take this out, close it up. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to run the car for about, I don't know, 2 minutes, and then I'm going to let it sit for 5 minutes, and then I'll check the engine oil level to see where we're at. So we want to check the oil level to see where we're at. So first one, I always wipe off. And let's put this in here. Pull it out, and let's see where we're at. Wow, she's full. She's perfect. That's plenty of oil. We're not going to add any more. But you can see there's 2 holes here. So you want to be within this range when we're at the high range. So we're not going to add any more oil. We're good to go. I'm going to take the lug nuts off of the wheels, inspect the braking system, and then rotate the tires. Alright, tire off. I'm going to wheel this to the back because I'm going to take the front tire, put it in the back, take the back tire, put it in the front. Now I'm going to inspect the brake components. So now that we're up close, we're going to take a flashlight and see what our brake pad life is left. And me looking at it, this has plenty of brake pad life left. She's at least at 50%. So she's got probably until at least 75,000 miles until she's going to want to change her brakes. And looking at the pads on the backside, they look good as well. We're going to inspect the hose here to make sure there's no cracks or fraying, and then just do a general inspection to make sure nothing's loose, nothing's bent, no rocks, nothing has been kicked up here, nothing is in bad shape. So she's looking good. I'm going to take the back tire off, do the exact same inspection, put the back tire on here, and then put the front tire on the back. So I have both tires side to side. One of these is the front tire, one of these is the back tire. Can you tell which one is the front tire and which tire is the back tire? Looking at it, it's really hard to tell. However, if you got a trained eye, you can look at a couple things. One thing I look at is the cornering of the rubber. You see how the rubber is here? Look at the condition of the rubber here versus the condition of the rubber here on the sides. If you're seeing what I'm seeing, this is much smoother, much less wear, where here, this is much more aggressive and you can see the wear. The reason being is this was the front tire. All right, when you're turning, there's a lot of grip, a lot of traction put on the sides of these. So that's why it's very important to rotate your tires. So we're gonna put the back tire on the front and the front tire on the back. Okay, now what you're gonna do is get your torque wrench and let's torque these to 85 foot-pounds. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Subaru calls for the lug nuts to be torqued to 85 foot-pounds, which we just did. I like to double check. So I'm going to go through each one, again in a star pattern, and check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is good. All right, so we're going to do remaining inspections. Remaining inspections per Subaru are to check the condition of the brake fluid and the brake fluid level. And if you look at a flashlight, I mean, we're perfectly at the right level. It's like we didn't lose anything. And the color is perfectly clear, so we're not even going to mess with it. But we could tap it off in the event we need anything. It also wants you to check the brake lines. See anything leaking? I don't see anything leaking. It also wants you to check the fuel lines as well to see if you see anything leaking. Now the fuel lines are a little harder to check because you got to follow where it goes back, but if you're going to the main common fuel rail, you can see there's no leaks, no damages or anything like that. Battery looks to be in decent condition. It's not corroded to hell. Yep, this is in good shape. Windshield washer fluid. I don't know how to check the level on this thing, but we're gonna add some in there anyway. Coolant. Let's check the coolant reservoir. So coolant, it says we are low on coolant. So I'm gonna fill the coolant up to the full mark. A very important thing you wanna look at is your engine belt. And you wanna look at it, get a flashlight. You're gonna wanna make sure there's no cracks on the ribs. The belt's in good shape. You want to see no fraying or anything. And this belt looks like it's in superb condition. It looks like it's in almost new condition. So we're not going to mess with it. Once you finish inspecting the engine bay and checking all the fluids and topping off all the reservoirs, the only thing left to do is to change the spark plugs. Let's do that next. So for replacing the spark plugs, tonight I'm replacing the original equipment with NGK Laser Platinum Premiums. These are badass spark plugs. They are extremely expensive. These cost about $25 a piece, but you're going to get 100,000 miles out of these. First thing you got to do is remove the battery. I was looking up online on replacing the spark plugs, and Subaru says you have to like lift the motor up to replace the spark plugs, and I don't think you need to. I think by replacing, just taking the battery out and then taking the air cleaner, at least the air tube out on the one side, I should be able to reach in there and get replace the spark plugs. So this will be a good test to see if I can or if I can't. So I'm using a 10 mil to remove the terminals off of the battery. Okay. Try to remove this first coil. It looks like a 10 millimeter bolt. Now things are tight. Alright, so I got that 10 loose. So now that that's loose, I'm just going to back this bolt out by hand. Alright, I'm taking my long screwdriver. Let's try and pop this coil out. There we go. That worked well. Okay. Now I'm pulling the coil. I'm just going to pull it out of the way. And now I can fit the spark plug socket in there. So these spark plugs are 14 millimeters. So I'm going to use a 3-inch and then 14 deep. And let's loosen these. Get your ratchet out and then spin this off by hand. Once this is really loose, let's take this out. And if you don't have a 14 millimeter spark plug socket like I do, you might need a little magnet just to get the original spark plug out. So, look at this. These had NGKs on them to begin with. Impressive. So, and we are using the exact same type. So actually this is original equipment. I said this is better, but this is original equipment in this motor. So let's put the new one in. I just finished the rear spark plug. It was a pain in the ass because it was so tight to the frame rail. One thing I did have to do is use a block of wood and a pry bar, and I had to pry up on part of the motor so I can move the engine up a little bit so I can pull my socket in and out of the spark plug hole. So just be mindful of that. Now let's move on to the passenger side, and we got 2 spark plugs over here. And I think this one's going to be much easier. The only thing I'm going to do is, I already put a new air filter in, but I think I'm going to take this part out and this tube. Yeah, I think that's the easiest thing to do. This wire clip. Okay. So I'm going to take this part of the cleaner out. Let's take the filter here. Get this out of the way. And I'm just going to leave it like that. That gives me plenty of space to fart around here. Using a long 10 millimeter and a 1/4-inch ratchet, let's undo the nuts to these coils. Okay, let's take this coil. I'm going to put it back here, and I'm going to take the other coil off as well. I'm going to put both coils back there. Ooh, that spark plug was really loose. Okay, so let's pull this one out. Okay. And that's one spark plug. Gotta take the extension out, then the socket, then the spark plug. There she is. Now that that's on tight, I'm gonna do the same thing on this cylinder here, and then I'm gonna put it all back together. Let's throw this back together. Remember, we gotta plug in our sensor and put this harness, put that back in. There we go. Now let's put this hose back on. That was pretty simple. Now what I'm gonna do is start up the car, make sure it runs and sounds fine. So let's take a hard look at the numbers here. Again, this is a 2018 Subaru Crosstrek, and I performed a 60,000 mile servicing on it. The dealership typically charges a low end of $600 to a high end of $800 to perform this. This is what it cost me in parts. For oil and filter replacement, it was $40. Engine air filter replacement was $27. The cabin air filter replacement was $20. Spark plugs were crazy expensive at $25 each. Times 4 was $100 in spark plugs. As part of the servicing, you also have to do these inspections. Tire rotation, brake pad inspection, brake fluid inspection, engine belt inspection, cooling system inspection, and fuel line inspection. Again, it was just my labor to do this. So what did it cost in parts? The total cost in parts was $187. In Pennsylvania, we pay 6% sales tax, so I'm looking at $198. I'm going to round up to $200 to make math easy. And it took me 2 hours to replace all these parts and do all these inspections. It really wasn't that bad. So when I look at the final consumer costs, at $800 and 6% sales tax, we're looking at a high end of $836 to a low end of $625 to perform this servicing at the dealership. Let's just say I take $200 in parts off of this. You're looking at saving $636 to $425. If we just average the two together, let's just make math easy and say it's $500. So this begs the question, is spending $200 in parts and 2 hours of your time and labor worth saving $500? It sure is for me, but is it for you?